Tony Stark, billionaire, playboy, genius, and weapons manufacturer. The film wastes no time introducing us to his reckless charm. In the back of a military Humvee in Afghanistan, Tony cracks jokes with young soldiers, drinks whiskey in the middle of the desert, and acts like life is just one long party. And then it happens. A sudden ambush. Rockets explode around them. The soldiers are killed one by one. Tony scrambles out of the vehicle, and in that split second, as a missile lands beside him, his heart sinks. Because that missile doesn't belong to the enemy. It carries a name, his own. Stark Industries. The blast knocks him out. Shrapnel tears into his chest. Darkness consumes him. And when he wakes up, he's in a cave. A car battery is strapped to his chest. Tubes run into his skin. And across the room, another man greets him. Dr. Yinsen. This stranger explains the horror shrapnel is lodged near Tony's heart. If it moves further, he dies. The device in his chest, a crude electromagnet, is the only thing keeping him alive. And worse, the terrorists who captured him don't want ransom. They don't want him freed. They want him to build. They want Tony Stark to make them weapons. At first, Tony plays along. He sketches, welds, pretends to cooperate. But secretly, he's building something else. He takes scrap metal, old Stark Industries tech, and the electromagnet in his chest, and creates a miniature arc reactor, a clean power source, a miracle of engineering. And with Yinsen's help, Tony designs something even more daring, an armored suit, not sleek, not fancy, a walking tank, but enough to break out of the cave. Days turn to weeks, sweat, sparks, and whispers in the dark. Until finally, the Mark I Iron Man suit is born. The escape doesn't come without sacrifice. Yinsen, Tony's only ally, gives his life to buy Tony time. His last words cut deep. Don't waste your life. Enraged and heartbroken, Tony erupts from the cave in his metal armor. Flamethrowers blazing, missiles flying. The terrorists scatter. Explosions fill the desert. And though the suit doesn't survive the flight, Tony Stark does. The man who entered that cave is not the same man who escapes it. Because that cave didn't just save his life, it gave him purpose. Tony Stark isn't just going to make weapons anymore. He's going to become one. He's going to become Iron Man. Tony Stark returns home. Reporters swarm him. Cameras flash. Questions fly. But instead of celebrating survival, Tony does something shocking. At a press conference, he announces that Stark Industries will no longer manufacture weapons. Gasps fill the room. The military, the press, even his best friend, Colonel Rhodes. Everyone thinks he's lost his mind. But Tony has changed. The cave, Yinsen's death, the sight of his weapons killing innocents, it all burned a hole in his soul. He won't be the world's merchant of death anymore. Of course, not everyone is happy. Behind the scenes, Obadiah Stane, the father figure business partner, tries to talk him out of it. He smiles, acts calm, but his eyes hide fury. Because for Stane, weapons mean money, power, control. And Tony's conscience? That's just bad business. Meanwhile, Tony retreats into his workshop, and this is where the real magic begins. Remember that bulky, clunky Mark I suit? Tony isn't satisfied. He wants something better, something faster, something sleek, powerful, and most importantly, fun. Cue the montage. Design sketches, glowing holograms, metal parts falling into place. He tests the flight stabilizers only to slam into the ceiling. He builds repulsor blasts, nearly knocking himself across the room. Each test is chaotic, each failure hilarious. But slowly, piece by piece, the legend is being forged. And then one night, it works. The Mark II suit comes to life, shining silver, aerodynamic, with rockets under the feet and an AI voice named Jarvis guiding him. Tony steps inside. The engines roar, and with a thunderous blast, he launches himself into the sky. The flight is clumsy, dangerous, thrilling. He soars above Malibu, climbs into the clouds, laughs like a child rediscovering life. Until the suit freezes, ice builds on the armor, systems shut down. He plummets like a stone. At the last second, he fixes the flaw and rockets back up, crashing into his workshop in a fiery heap. Not perfect, but close. While Tony plays inventor, the world outside grows darker. Reports surface of Stark weapons still being used by terrorists in Gulmira Yinsen's hometown. Tony realizes shutting down his factories wasn't enough. His creations are still killing innocent people. And in that moment, he makes a choice. No more hiding. No more guilt. It's time to fight. Cue the arrival of the Mark III suit. Red and gold armor. Sleek, iconic, unstoppable. Tony straps in. The faceplate locks. The arc reactor glows. Iron Man is born. And where does he go first? Straight to Gulmira. The terrorists, armed with stark weapons, are terrorizing villagers. Families cower in the dirt. Gunfire echoes in the streets. Then suddenly the sound of jets. A metallic figure drops from the sky. The terrorists open fire, but bullets bounce harmlessly off the armor. Iron Man unleashes his repulsors, rockets, and shoulder-mounted missiles. In minutes, the village is free. One man against an army. The world just witnessed the birth of a hero, but heroes make enemies. Because while Tony plays savior abroad, Obadiah Stane makes his move at home. He's been secretly dealing under the table, selling weapons to both sides of conflicts, feeding chaos for profit. And now, with Tony jeopardizing everything, Stane sets his sights on something bigger. He wants not just the company, he wants the armor, and he's willing to do anything to get it. But before we see just how far Obadiah will go, the government decides to step in. Because you can't exactly fly around in a giant weaponized suit without attracting attention. And when Iron Man's actions in Gulmira hit the news, the US military has only one question: just who the hell is this guy? Tony's first heroic mission in Gulmira doesn't stay secret for long. News footage spreads. The military scrambles to explain what happened. And deep in the Pentagon, officials point at the screen, asking the obvious question: whose side is he on? Rhodes, Tony's oldest friend, knows the truth, but he stays silent. Meanwhile, Tony refines his double life. During the day, cocktail parties, board meetings, pretending to be the same old careless billionaire. At night, the armor, testing, upgrading, pushing the limits. But balancing both lives isn't easy. One night, during a routine flight test, Tony strays too close to restricted airspace. The Air Force scrambles two F-22 fighter jets. The pilots lock on. Missiles fire. Tony dodges, weaving through clouds, metal clashing with supersonic jets in a dizzying dogfight. He calls Rhodes mid-battle, his voice frantic. "Hey, it's me. Don't shoot." Rhodes can't believe it. "You're inside that thing?" It's chaos. The jets nearly destroy him, but Tony survives barely. The world may not know yet, but the government is starting to piece it together. Iron Man is Tony Stark. While Tony struggles with his new identity, Obadiah Stane makes his move. He travels to Afghanistan, where the terrorists who once held Tony still linger. And there, he learns something terrifying. They've rebuilt the remains of Tony's Mark I suit. Crude, broken, but functional enough to prove one thing: Tony's designs are real. Obadiah doesn't flinch. He smiles, because now he knows exactly how to surpass Tony. Back in the US, the tension between Tony and Stane boils over. Tony wants to take control of his weapons, to right the wrongs, but Obadiah isn't just resisting, he's orchestrating the whole disaster. And in a chilling scene, Stane pulls out his trump card. With a sonic paralyzer device, he freezes Tony in his own home. Tony's body locks, his breath shallow, his eyes wide with panic. Obadiah leans close, whispering his betrayal. "You're not the only one with a bright idea." He rips the arc reactor straight from Tony's chest. Tony collapses, weak, helpless. The glowing heart that kept him alive is gone. And this is the turning point. Because while Tony lies dying, Obadiah begins building his own monster, a towering war machine powered by the stolen technology. The mentor has become the villain. And the student? Unless he finds a way, he won't survive long enough to stop him. But Tony isn't finished yet. Struggling across his lab floor, barely breathing, he reaches for the only thing left: the old, bulky arc reactor. The first one he ever built in the cave. The one Yinsen helped him make. He straps it back into his chest. It's weak, outdated, but it keeps him alive. And sometimes, the first step is all you need to rise again. Because Tony Stark isn't just a man with a suit. He's Iron Man, and he's about to face the monster his own legacy created. Tony Stark may be weak, but he isn't alone. Pepper Potts, his loyal assistant, becomes more than just a secretary in this moment. She becomes his partner, his lifeline. Tony warns her, Obadiah is building something far worse than anything Stark Industries has ever made. A monster powered by his stolen tech. And Pepper, she doesn't hesitate. She teams up with S.H.I.E.L.D., planting evidence, digging into Obadiah's crimes. But it's already too late. Because Obadiah Stane unveils his creation, the Ironmonger, a hulking, towering suit of armor armor, twice the size of Tony's Iron Man suit. Brutal, ruthless, a weapon of pure destruction. The Mentor has become the monster. Night falls on Stark Industries headquarters. Obadiah stomps through the city in his massive armor, crushing cars underfoot, scattering civilians. His voice booms through the speakers, dripping with cruelty. "Did you really think you could lock me out of my own company, Tony?" And then, out of the shadows, comes Iron Man. Tony, running on the outdated arc reactor, barely at half power, rockets into battle. The fight is chaos. Obadiah slams Tony against buildings, ripping through concrete like paper. Tony counters with repulsor blasts, but they barely scratch the Ironmonger's armor. The clash of metal shakes the city, sparks raining across the night sky. At one point, Obadiah pins Tony to the ground, crushing him beneath the massive weight of the Ironmonger suit. "Your father trusted me with the company," Stane growls. "And look what you've done with it." Tony gasps, his voice weak, but his spirit unbroken. "If you're gonna kill me, make it quick." But Tony isn't here to die. He's here to outsmart. Because while Obadiah has brute strength, Tony has one thing he'll never match: genius. With every ounce of power left in the old arc reactor, Tony takes the fight higher. He lures Obadiah into the skies above Los Angeles. At first, Ironmonger dominates, hammering Tony with blow after blow. But then, something starts to happen. The higher they go, the colder it gets. Frost forms across the Ironmonger's armor. The massive suit shudders. Systems spark and freeze. Tony smirks through the pain. "Should have figured out the icing problem." Obadiah roars in frustration as his armor locks up. For a moment, it looks like Tony's won, but his own suit begins to fail too. He's running on borrowed power. Both of them plummet back towards Stark Industries. The final showdown happens on the rooftop. Pepper, guided by Tony's instructions, races to overload the giant arc reactor powering the building. Tony grapples with Obadiah, sparks flying, metal tearing. He's exhausted, beaten, running out of options. And then he makes the call. Pepper pushed the button. She slams her hand on the controls. The arc reactor surges. A blinding explosion of light and energy erupts. Tony is thrown across the rooftop. Obadiah screams as the surge tears through the Ironmonger suit, ripping it apart from the inside. And then, silence. The smoke clears. The Ironmonger lies in ruins. Obadiah Stane, the man who betrayed Tony, who twisted his legacy into a monster, is gone. Tony staggers to his feet, his armor cracked, his chest reactor flickering. But he's alive. For the first time, truly alive. The world doesn't just have Tony Stark anymore. It has Iron Man. The dust settles. Los Angeles breathes again. But the world now knows something extraordinary just happened. Stark Industries is in chaos. Journalists swarm, military officials demand answers, and the government insists on a cover story. S.H.I.E.L.D. steps in, led by Agent Coulson. Their advice: keep it simple. Deny everything. Pretend Iron Man is just a bodyguard, a prototype weapon, anything but Tony Stark. Tony, sitting in front of the press, flips through the cue cards. He's supposed to read the carefully written statement, "Iron Man is a bodyguard." But Tony Stark is not a man who hides. He stares at the cameras, smirks, and, with a single sentence, he changes everything. "I am Iron Man." The room explodes with chaos, shouts, flashes, disbelief. But it's too late. The secret is out. Tony Stark, the billionaire, the genius, the playboy, has just told the world he's a hero. No masks, no alter ego, no lies. For the first time in superhero history, the man and the hero are one and the same. And just like that, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was born. Because later, after the credits roll, we see a shadow in Tony's home. A man with one eye. A man with a mission. Nick Fury. He steps out of the dark, his voice steady and iconic. "Mr. Stark, you've become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet." And with those words, the Avengers initiative begins.